You hear that? That's Monday morning in a busy dental office. You know the sound. But wait, listen. There's something else in here, and I want to show you. So let me clear the room. The drill, the suction, the dental chair, the printer, the microwave, the break room chatter, the lobby music, small talk, babies crying, phones ringing. There it is. Do you hear it? That is DentalOS. 50 appointments confirmed, 12 claims verified, 6 recalls booked, charts prepped, insurance checked. That's the sound of a dental practice where everything just connects. Most people never hear it. Do you?
I want to tell you something that I believe with complete certainty. The era of sustainable dental enterprise has arrived. Not in 2 years, not when the market settles, not when you feel ready, now. For most of its history, dental was very much a practice business. Each location ran itself, each had its own systems, its own way of doing things, its own version of the truth. That model made sense when groups were small. When growth meant one more location, one more front desk, and one more filing cabinet. But the organizations in this room are not that. You are enterprises. You are managing complexity that compounds with every acquisition, every de novo, every location you add to the portfolio. And the infrastructure most you are running on was built for a world that no longer exists. We have a name for that cost. We call it process debt. And like all debt, it compounds. Silently until it doesn't. The groups that recognize this moment, that make the infrastructure decision deliberately right now while the window is open, those are the groups that will define what dental enterprise looks like in 2030. Not the ones that waited, not the ones that patched the old system one more time, the ones that build on the right foundation. Planet DDS has been building for this era for 20 years. And today, we are going to show you what we built and what it means for every enterprise in this room. Whether you are running 10 locations or hundreds, if you are building something, this era is yours. This is Mike, our Chief Revenue Officer. Nobody in this company has spent more times in the rooms that you are sitting in right now.
I spent a lot of time talking to the operators in this room. CEOs, COOs, CIOs, the people actually running these enterprises day to day. And when I ask them, what keeps them up at night right now? The answer is not what it was 5 years ago. 5 years ago, it was growth. How do we add locations? How do we get bigger? Today, it's performance. How do we get more out of what we have? How do we actually run this thing? 3 forces are driving that shift. And together, they are compressing the timeline for every dental enterprise in this room. The first force, maturity. For the last decade, the story in dental was consolidation. Acquire, scale, figure out the infrastructure later. Well, later has arrived. The groups that went on acquisition runs are now sitting on the infrastructure decisions they deferred. Multiple systems that do not talk to each other. Technology spend no one has full visibility into. Locations that each operate differently, because there was never a standard. And the capital partners who backed that growth, they're not waiting forever. They want to see these businesses perform. So, the conversation has shifted. It is no longer about just acquiring more. It is about getting more out of what you have. Same store growth. This is the metric every PE-backed DSO is being measured on right now. Not how many locations you can add, how much more production you can drive from the locations you already have. And the answer comes back to the same three things every time: efficiency, standardization, control over your technology ecosystem. The groups that have that visibility, that can deploy the right tools across every location and rationalize their tech spend, those groups win. The ones that cannot see across their portfolio, well, they'll keep leaving performance on the table. The gap is widening. And there's good news. It is entirely solvable. So let's talk about the second force. That's right, AI. AI is arriving in dental for scheduling, for imaging, for documentation, for revenue cycle. The potential is real and it is large. But here's the thing most vendors will not tell you. AI is only as powerful as the data underneath it. Groups running on connected infrastructure will get dramatically more value from every AI tool that they adopt, because the data those tools need, clean, complete, accessible, is already there. Groups running on fragmented technology stacks, they're going to get a fraction of that value. Every year that gap widens. And unlike most gaps, this one does not close by moving later. The data asset compounds from the day you build it. The race has already started. The third force, the performance imperative. 70 to 90% of dental offices say hiring clinical staff is very or extremely challenging. Fewer than half of open roles are being filled. So, you cannot hire your way out. And as we just established, you're no longer acquiring your way out either. Every path to growth runs through the same bottleneck: operational performance. Getting more production out of the locations you already have, with the staff you already have, on the technology you are already paying for. The groups figuring this out are automating the work that should never have required a human. Standardizing operations so every location performs the same way. Taking control of their technology ecosystem. Understanding what they are spending, what is working, and where the gaps are. Visibility and control, not just at the location level, at the enterprise level. The operators doing this well, they're pulling away from the ones who are not. And the buyers in this market, well, you guessed it, they know it. They're not shopping for software, they are evaluating infrastructure. It connects the front desk to the boardroom, the CTO to the CEO. And it is entirely a platform problem. Three forces, one window. The question is whether you have the infrastructure to move through it.
Thanks, Mike. My name is Marilyn, and before we jump into what we've built, I want you to hear from somebody who has been living at the intersection of all three of those forces, not as an observer, but as an operator. Hello, it's so great to see you. I'm joined by Dr. Joshua Gish, president of Premier Care Dental Management, Dental 365, a group that spent the last several years stepping into where larger DSOs have struggled, stabilizing them and integrating them fully. Same systems, same clinical protocols, same culture. PCDM, Dental 365, has done these 4 to 5 times already, from groups ranging to 6 to 10 offices each across the United States, and organizations that have already been through one transition and needed a partner that can actually follow through. Dr. Gish has thought harder about what makes the dental enterprise actually durable than most anyone I know, and I have a few questions I'd love to ask him on our behalf. So, Dr. Gish, nice to meet you. Do you want to introduce yourself for a couple of minutes?
Sure. Thanks, Marilyn. It's an absolute pleasure to get an opportunity to talk to you. I obviously want to say thank you first and foremost for having given me this opportunity to have a discussion with you. And obviously, we've got an amazing relationship with Planet DDS and Denticon, and really appreciate you and your group's dedication to advancing dentistry It's very special, it's very unique, and we really consider you guys a great partner. So thank you. Again, my name is Joshua Gish. I'm a board certified oral and maxillofacial surgeon. I joined what is now PCDM Dental 365 about 7 years ago, brought in my own private practice of oral surgeons and oral surgery groups, referral-based specialists, very involved in dentistry, working with our referral sources, our general dentists, to really advance dentistry. We had exceptional clinical outcomes and really love dentistry. We're not some of the oral surgeons that kind of consider ourselves above and beyond. I think we all know that oral surgeons tend to think very highly of ourselves. So we had the opportunity to meet Scott Asness, who started Dental 365 back when we were looking for some help in managing our organization. Obviously my first question was, what does a general dentist know about running an oral surgery practice? But it turns out that he was very aligned with how we feel about being a part of the dental community, that specialty work should be done by specialists, and understood the separation of church and state between specialists and general dentists. I love what he and his group was doing. We were excited to be a part of it. We wrote down kind of how to build out the specialty division of PCDM and Dental 365. And over these past 7 years have grown exponentially. We've built out the organization to close to 170 offices. We're in 8 different states. A lot of our practices are every part of general dentistry, meaning that about 30 or so % of our practices are actually standalone specialty offices, and the rest are general dentistry offices. We operate in rural, urban, suburban communities. We've been very successful standing on our principles of exceptional patient experiences and outstanding clinical outcomes. So as we continue to grow, obviously the landscape has shifted. There's a lot of people that we've had the opportunity to meet with and see what they're doing, kind of fine tune what we do. And, as we go further along and as I get more involved in the organization, and now as my position as president of Dental 365 and PCDM, I'm excited to talk to you more about kind of what we see and how we've continued to grow.
Yeah, it's awesome. Thanks for that. We are going to talk about your LinkedIn post that you did a week ago or so. Your LinkedIn post named something that most DSO leaders are still dancing around, that some of these organizations were built on financial engineering, not clinical infrastructure. So what are you seeing happen in the market right now?
Yeah, I think it's a great topic, and I'm happy to talk about it more. It's fun to put a post out there and get nice engagement and try to have conversations on the keyboard, but doing them in person, I think, gets a real tone of what's going on and invites more questioning and more discussion. I think that as headwinds increase, and we all see that there are headwinds, a real lack of infrastructure means that you can't make meaningful progress in your organization. The key driver for us for margin expansion, revenue growth is actually better dentistry, right? It's not trying to financially figure out how to be more productive. It's just doing better dentistry. And without a clinical infrastructure, you're basically, what I think of like scrounging on the secondary market, looking for ways to increase profits, whether that be making super dentists, which we've heard a lot of people try to do, meet production quotas, cut corners, change supplies, just trying to nibble away at different margins. But the truth of the matter is that it all comes down to better dentistry. Like I said before, we believe that specialty dentistry should be done by specialists, trained specialists. We think our doctors should only use evidence-based materials. Doing dentistry is hard, and we always say doing good dentistry is even harder. And that we also believe that good dental professionals are lifelong learners, and so we're responsible for giving them access to education. And if you're financially engineered, you can't reconcile those concepts with being profitable. And unfortunately, that's what gives DSOs a really bad reputation. Specifically regarding the financial engineering, the thing that bothers me the most is this false carrot of dentists being able to make a huge profit down the line by investing in the group. And the truth of the matter is that it's not guaranteed. And when it doesn't pan out because of whatever reason, wage pressures, inflation, changes in investment strategies on the whole, socioeconomic pressures, war, the dentists get hurt, and so does the industry as a whole, right? Groups are not being able to be profitable. And at scale, that means that these overly leveraged groups will default on their covenants. They're in true financial trouble. And the first person to lose money is the dentist that was promised this carrot down the line. And the second thing that unfortunately happens is the patients get disserviced as well. So that's what I mean, is that if you have to be built on a sound clinical foundation, otherwise financially it's hard to make this work.
Yeah, totally. And I guess when you've described PCDM Dental 365 as a consolidator of consolidators, where you guys have stepped in where larger groups have struggled, what does that actually look like on the ground when you absorb one of these groups?
Yeah, it's not an easy position to be in, and I think that it's really a matter of building out your infrastructure ahead of time, right? So we started small. We were always Scott is always scared of falling under the weight of our scaling. So we built out our infrastructure to be able to support before we made any large moves. And anytime we evaluate any practice or group of practices, the first question in our room, as we're discussing this is always, can we do this? How can we support this? Even down to saying, hey, give me a list of the people who are going to be involved in this transition. Are they available? Will they have to turn their back on other operational situations because of it, or can we make this work? And so what we've done is we actually have learned to evaluate the existing infrastructure as part of our diligence. We try to look at where they tripped up, what worked, what didn't work, and kind of what philosophical differences they have from what we do and what's currently being deployed. So we sit there and say, are we going to be the bad guys coming in? What does that look like? Do we have a problem from day one? Who's giving the messaging to the dentist in the past, and what's it going to be now? We actually meet with the clinicians in the group, right? We look at to see who is involved. We look at their infrastructure to see who's involved. We currently keep our corporate expense really low as a percentage of our revenue overall, because that allows us to be flexible so we can bring in good athletes. For example, one of the first groups that we brought on board in Massachusetts had some amazing operators that were kind of in the wrong position, but we realized they were true athletes. We were able to bring them into our group and utilize them, and now they're really instrumental in the day-to-day business of our practice. So it's really a matter of doing proper diligence, evaluating our process compared to what they're doing, and looking what other groups are doing. Sometimes you can learn from them and say, hey, this is a good way of doing things. So I think diligence is kind of the biggest thing. Understanding what your infrastructure looks like, and then having the systems, and I'm sure we'll get down to this later, the idea of integration. What do you do for your integration? How is everything on one platform, and how does that facilitate you being able to do that? And that's a big differentiator for us.
Yeah, totally. And you said the difference, or like some of it comes down to infrastructure and integration. Why does that matter so much to you and the team? And what goes wrong when groups take a lighter touch approach?
Yeah, this is a killer for us. So I don't know if you know this, but at Dental 365, all of our practices that we acquire and groups that join us are integrated, fully integrated within 3 weeks. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Wow.
unheard of, right? And you can back this up. You see how quickly we get them onto the Denticon platform.
Yeah.
We always say we don't have a light touch, we don't have a heavy touch, we have our touch. And the truth is that starts with a full informed consent to the doctors and their staff, so they understand what they're getting themselves into. We've
Yeah.
said no to over 300 offices in the past 12 months, and part of that is telling them exactly what we're going to do and what this is going to look like and feel like. We say, listen, the hardest thing you're going to do is change your practice management software, but there's a reason for it. And we explain to them what that integration reason looks like. Um,
Yeah.
and that's why sometimes we say, listen, this is not for you. You're going to mourn too much. It's not going to work. You're going to be resistant to it. Your staff's going to be resistant. It's not a good fit, and there's other groups out there that do things differently, and maybe they're a better fit. But you can't go into this and have a light touch. Those days are over of just barely integrating groups and saying that they're a part of your organization. You have no leverage. You have no ability to make change. You can't even consolidate data. Once you're on one practice management platform, you can have centralized revenue cycle. You can implement technology. And then you can also standardize clinical protocols, because that protects your patients, right? That's, to me, people always talk about culture. Culture is standardized clinical protocols, right? So, for example, I know it's a little tangent here, but we don't even force our doctors to use our own specialists, right? So instead, what we do is we ensure that the referral is seamless, that the patient experience at the high level, and the clinical care is exceptional. right? But you can't do that. You can't have that standardized clinical protocols if you don't have a single practice management software, and if you don't
Yeah.
have a standardized touch and integration process. Um, our culture, interestingly enough, is that we're not dentist advocates, we're patients advocates. And you can only say that when you're fully integrated. You can't, you have no control otherwise.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you already answered one of my follow-up questions, which is awesome. So like going into that a little bit more with the groups that you've absorbed that have already gone through the transition before you guys had came in, what did that experience teach you about what makes infrastructure change actually stick versus fall apart?
Mhm. Yeah, I think that this, kind of touched upon, but it's really a matter of diligence. Like you have to know what you're looking at, and you have to know where the friction points are going to be. You have to talk to the doctors. You have to talk to the staff. Part of our diligence is actually looking at doctor schedules. And
Mm,
then we talk about it and kind of figure out how that's going to look when they're on our practice management software. If you talk to one of the associate doctors, let's say in a large group practice, and the doctors say that the main stressor for them is that it's the management team, what the pressures they're getting put on, or the frustrations with the support that they're getting, that's a win for us, right? So that's an easy way to bring in a group. And sometimes, honestly, like groups are well intended. It doesn't mean that everybody out there is doing things wrong. There's certain reasons why other groups fail. Um, but a lot of times we see a common theme when we bring a group on. Let's say it's even 6 practices, 10 practices, something like that. The management always says, "Oh yeah, we were plans to do X, or we were going to implement Y, and we just never got around to it." And that's when we come in, and it works really well because with our centralized platform and the investment that we make in that, in our doctor education, our technology, and just good dentistry, we know that we can succeed. So I think it's a matter of being prepared. I think that our systems that are in place already kind of set us up for success.
yeah, totally. And like honestly, PCDM and like Dental 365, you guys have been one of our favorite customer or success stories among our customers that are growing alongside with us. Are there some lessons that you could share with us about the unique journey of you and the team?
Um, I think one of the Yeah, I think there's a lot that we can probably share. And again, I don't think it applies to everybody, but I think for us especially, working with you guys, it's been a matter of flexibility, and adaptability. I was like to listening to this, podcast from Mark Cuban, and he talks about what business actually is, right? Because the truth of the matter is that you have to be adaptable, right? Um, you can't be dogmatic, right? Yeah, it's good business. It's a process, right? You always have to be reevaluating. You always have to look to take a step back and say, hey, we made a mistake. Let's just fix it, or let's not do that again. Don't be afraid to make a decision. Don't get paralysis by analysis. Finally make a decision and commit to it. And if it's wrong, then you pivot and you go a different way. And I think that you guys especially have been great partners when it comes to that. There's we understand there's growing pains. I mean, I think that in the dental world, there's a lot of good people out there. And when you have a good relationship with a vendor, with another group, with other doctors, and you say, listen, we both can be successful, right? There's room for right? I'm successful and you're successful. And together we're that much stronger. That's when you get on the same page and you say, okay, this is our wish list. This is what we want. And then, we go back and forth and we make changes. And we've seen that with Denticon. I mean, specifically, with your product, we've felt the support, and we're not easy. I'm sure as much as you give us compliments working with Dental 365, I'm sure when the phone rings and the caller ID shows up that it's one of us, somebody's, kind of swallows hard and says, here we go. But that's what's important. We have that relationship where we can kind of push back on each other and say, this is what we need. And that is because we have the same vision of making this better for everybody.
Yeah, honestly, we don't do that. Our team loves you. And I guess like for a lot of the DSO leaders that are in the room or watching online, we're still running on more fragmented systems and having like, I don't know, like 13 PMSs plus like all these other things. And they know that it's a problem, but haven't made the move. What would you tell them?
Oh boy. Yeah, I mean, you have to understand that this is your number one priority. I think that the writing's on the wall. It's very obvious that you can't stay in the game if you're fragmented. You won't be able to adapt. You won't be able to implement new technology. One of the biggest things that every meeting is talking about technology, whether it be automation, AI. Anybody can go off the shelf and purchase an automation product or an AI tool. But if your systems are fragmented, you won't be able to implement it. Where's the data coming from? Where's it stored? How are you layering on these AI tools? So I would say definitely, do your research, find the right partner that's also committed to your growth and understands what your business needs are. And we always say the tide is going out, and there's just no leeway for businesses that are not optimized and not centralized. So put everything else on hold and get under one system, because it's moving too fast. I think even within Denticon, and this is a very unique case study, but we've noticed this, right, with some of the AI tools that we've rolled out through Denticon. We've actually had to reorganize our centralization to make sure that it's optimized better for like 835 automations and things like that. You can't do it if you're all over the place. So if you haven't done it yet, you're almost going to give up if you haven't done it. You got to get on that.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's incredible because what strikes me about what you described is like nothing is like theoretical, because you guys are working with real groups, real doctors, everything. And the difference is just the infrastructure and integration decision that you guys made of like having the same systems and all these other things, and the commitment for just having your own approach or your own touch, actually. And this is honestly like what we want us to talk about and like kind of educate more of our market into like going into it too. So I appreciate your time and for you being here, Dr. Gish.
No, it's my pleasure. I'm happy to always continue discussions. I encourage everybody to reach out and continue to have these discussions. And I think one of the meaningful things, if I can just say to anybody that's listening, a great thing to do is to be a devil's advocate. Take what people are saying negatively about your business, about the DSO world, and answer back what they're going to say about you. And if you can honestly have that argument and make your point clearly and say, no, we are a dental clinical organization. We are centralized. We are making the patient experience better. We're doing better dentistry. We're allowing our patients to actually have the least amount of dentistry in their life instead of constantly redoing procedures, right? Making sure that you're on top of what you need to be doing. If you can have that argument, and you can just go online, you can see what people are saying negative about DSOs. So make the answers, figure out what you need to do, because that will highlight some of the changes that you need to make yourself more successful. And certainly one of them is going to be integration, and centralization of your protocols.
Most software companies build for the market that exists today. We made 3 bets on the market that's coming. The first bet, cloud native from day one. Not migrated to the cloud, not cloud hosted, built from the ground up for multi-location DSOs, running on a shared infrastructure. Since 2003, 23 years of solving the problems that only appear at scale. Multi-location reporting, centralized billing, security governance across hundreds of locations. That institutional knowledge lives in every layer of this platform. You can't replicate it on a shorter timeline. The second bet, open by design. Some platforms are built around a single vendor's vision of how dental should be done. You get their tools, you accept their roadmap, and you wait for their priorities. We made a different choice. We believe that the best dental enterprises should run the best tools in the industry, and those tools should work together natively, without forcing a workaround or adding a vendor. Open architecture, it's not a technical decision. It's a belief about who should be in control of how an enterprise operates. And I'm here to tell you, that should be you. The third bet, and this is the one I want you to carry with you today. AI native, not AI added. Years ago, we made the decision to weave AI into the very data layer of this platform. Not bolt it on afterwards, not license it from a third party, and not build it into a separate tab. Inside of the workflow, inside of the chart, inside of the decisions your teams make every day. But here is the compounding part. Every year that a dental enterprise runs on DentalOS, the data underneath gets richer, more connected, more complete, more valuable. The intelligence is not just a feature, it's an asset. It belongs to your organization. And like most assets, it compounds the longer that you hold it. A group that builds this foundation today will have an intelligence advantage in 2030, creating a competitive moat that cannot be beat. That's not a marketing claim. That's the nature of data assets. 3 bets, made early, paid off now. Let me show you what they built. Before I show you any of this, I want to give you a map. Everything that you're about to see lives inside of DentalOS. The agents, the clinical tools, the revenue cycle layer. These are not separate products that we built and just decided to show you today. They're expressions of the same platform. DentalOS is that platform. What follows is what runs on top of it. Think of it this way. Every capability that I show you over the next 30 minutes is an answer to the same question. How do you give a DSO leader complete visibility and control over their entire enterprise, from the front desk to the boardroom, on a single platform that they actually own? That's what DentalOS is built to do. DentalOS is the platform for multi-location dental groups. And I want to be specific about what that means. It means your entire technology ecosystem, every product, every location, every integration partner lives under one security model, one data layer, one governance structure. You can see everything. You can control everything. And you own every dollar of data that runs through it. That is what DSO leaders have been asking for. Not more software, visibility, and control at the enterprise level. This is what it looks like.
One login, one set of credentials that unlocks your entire enterprise. Every product, every location, one identity, one session. No more password switching, no more context switching, no more wondering which system you're even in. But this is more than convenience. It's security, governance at scale. You control who has access to what across every location from one place. That means no more shadow IT and no more a location manager logging in with credentials that should have been revoked 6 months ago. And for the person at the front desk, it means something simpler. One login and they're not asking, which system am I in 40 times a day? Now watch this patient record. This isn't a Denticon record, and it isn't a Cloud9 record. This is a DentalOS patient. One profile carrying their complete history, GP visits to ortho treatment to imaging, insurance, and payments across every location in your group back to the very first time they walked in. One record, no reconciliation. Nobody manually merging files from 2 systems. And for your leadership team, that same data layer is what powers every dashboard, every report, every insight across your portfolio. One source of truth, no data analyst required. Because DentalOS is open by design, the tools you've already invested in connect to that same layer. As of today, we have more than 75 integration partners. So your patient engagement platform, your analytics tools, and your revenue cycle partners are all finally speaking the same language. But here's what that really means for a DSO leader. You get to choose the best tool for every job and manage all of it from one place. You control your technology spend, you see ROI across every vendor, and you can add or remove tools without rebuilding your stack. That's our open architecture bet.
I want to say something direct to anyone in the room evaluating other platforms. Some vendors will tell you that they are all in one. What that means is that one vendor built everything. You take it or you leave it. You get their imaging tool, you get their ortho module, if they have one, and you get their roadmap on their timeline at their price. You don't get visibility across your whole technology ecosystem. You get visibility into their product. That's a closed box. And when your ambition outgrows what they decided to build, which it will, you have no options. DentalOS is a platform. You choose what you run on it. You own the data it generates. It gives you visibility, control, and those are yours. That's a structural advantage. Here's what happens when the foundation is right. When AI has a unified patient record to read from, a live schedule to act on, a single data layer across every location in your portfolio. It does not just analyze. It works, not as a feature you add to your system, but as a workforce embedded inside of it. We call it Agent Plus, an AI workforce built natively into Denticon and Cloud9. The first group of agents, the scheduling and reception agents, are live now. And here's what they do.
The confirmation agent runs your upcoming schedule automatically, calling patients within a window you configure, verifying identity before any appointment details are shared, and confirming the visit. If a patient needs to be rescheduled, the appointment is rescheduled on the same call, and every outcome is written back to your PMS in real time. No double entry, no sticky notes, no follow-up tasks sitting on someone's desk waiting for bandwidth. The recall agent pulls recall due patients directly from your PMS and calls them, in English or Spanish, within a window you control. When a patient's ready to book, it schedules the appointment before the call even ends. No manual follow-up, no chasing a callback. And this is where you manage all of it. The agent's dashboard is your command center. You can see which agents are running, turn new ones on across your entire portfolio in a single click, and track the ROI of every one of them without pulling a report or waiting on your team to build one.
Several agents all embedded in the system that your team already uses. No new login, no new vendor, no data to reconcile at the end of the day. And this is only the first group of agents coming. Revenue cycle agents, clinical workflow agents. The architecture is built to carry all of them. Every new agent inherits the same data layer, the same governance, the same ability to deploy instantly across every location in your portfolio from day one. This is the AI native bet that's starting to return value, not as a promise, but as a workforce. Everything that we've shown you so far, the platform, the agents, they've all been on the operating layer, but the new standard runs all the way to the clinical chair. And the single biggest source of provider burnout in the dental office right now is documentation. Clinicians spending the last 30 minutes of every session catching up on notes that they should have been able to document in real time. We built a solution for that.
Clinical Voice Plus is AI-powered voice documentation built natively into Denticon. One engine that covers every mode of clinical documentation your providers do. All hands-free, all writing directly to the chart as it happens. The first capability is AI Voice Perio. A clinician calls out findings during the exam, and the system captures and charts them as they're spoken, then automatically generates a Perio report card. Stage and grade per AAP guidelines, visual KPIs, visit over visit progress tracking. Brandable, signable, compliance ready. AI Voice Restorative extends that same hands-free experience across restorative procedures, conditions, and treatment plans. The provider stays fully present with the patient. The chart takes care of itself. And arriving this month, AI Voice Progress Notes. Most AI note tools ask the provider to work around the visit, dictate into a separate app after the fact, then copy it in, or fill out a template by hand. AI Voice Progress Notes works in two modes. The first, the provider works from a note template and speaks to fill it in. Hands-free, direct to chart, guided by the structure they already use. The second, the provider speaks freely during or right after the visit, and a complete standardized progress note is written directly into Denticon. And looking ahead, we're building toward a fully ambient mode, the system listening passively in the background with no provider action at all. That's on our roadmap for early next year.
The new standard is not just how your enterprise runs, it's how your providers practice. And every note charted here feeds the same data layer that the agents are reading from. The clinical chair is not separate from the enterprise operating model. It's actually the foundation of it. You see, both matter, and both of them are here. Let me tell you where we're headed with revenue cycle. The destination is zero. Zero time wasted chasing claims, $0 lost in denials that could have been prevented, and zero phone calls to verify eligibility that your system should already know. That's not a tagline, it's an architectural commitment. Every piece of RCM infrastructure that we're building inside of DentalOS is pointed at that destination. And I want to take a moment and show you how close we are. I want to talk about money, not abstractly, but concretely. The average dental group leaves 20 to 30% of submitted claims in a denial or pending state at any given time. For a 20 provider organization, that's literally millions in revenue, sitting in a queue that no one has full visibility into, annually, in receivable revenue. And that's just the denials. Unworked recall, unscheduled treatment, claims submitted with missing attachments. AR sitting in queues because a billing team can't see the full picture across payer, provider, and location. For private equity-backed DSOs, this surfaces directly into EBITDA, in same-store growth. In the valuation conversation, most of this revenue is not lost. It is just not being captured because the infrastructure to capture it has not existed until now.
The RCM Hub is built on one idea. Every person in your revenue cycle organization, from your VP of RCM to your regional managers to the front desk associate at a single office, should be working from the same picture, at the right level for their role, with the system doing the work that used to fall through the cracks between them. That's the full vision. What's arriving this year starts at the role where the problem is most immediate, your regional managers. The regional manager sees the same platform, filtered to her world. Her region is underperforming on eligibility. She can see which offices are driving it. She clicks into the eligibility and verifications workspace, and the picture is immediate. 50 patients across her region don't have a valid insurance plan on file before their appointment in the next 3 days. In the RCM Hub, she has 3 paths to close it. An automated workflow contacts those patients to collect updated insurance before they arrive. Verifications that can be resolved without human intervention are handled automatically. And for everything else, she assigns the work to the right offices in a single action. Accountability distributed, queue cleared, done in minutes. At the office level, the front desk associate opens her queue and knows exactly what to work. No forwarded emails, no verbal handoffs, no guessing. Her assignments are there, the patient details are there, and she resolves each one directly inside the hub. The update writes back to the record, the regional manager sees it close, and the VP of RCM sees the number move. That's the loop the dental enterprise era runs on. Not visibility at the top and chaos underneath. Visibility all the way through, and action at every level. This is the first module. By end of year, remittance joins the hub. 835s and EOBs processed, posted, and reconciled in the same workspace where your team is already working. No more toggling between systems to match payments to claims. And as the hub matures, it expands to cover both Denticon and Cloud9. So every location in your portfolio, GP and Ortho, works from the same picture.
Let me be clear about what the RCM Hub is. It's not a new feature in DentalOS. This is actually a financial layer of the enterprise operating model. DentalOS is a foundation. You see, Agents Plus is the AI workforce running on top of it, and Clinical Voice Plus is the intelligence at the chair. But the RCM Hub, that's what closes the loop. It's the system that ensures the revenue generated by every appointment that your agent confirms, every treatment that your clinicians document, and every patient your recall agent brings back. It's there to ensure that the revenue actually gets captured accurately, completely, visibly, end to end. You see, that's the operating model. Before Eric closes, I want to leave you with one more thing. Not a demo, but a look at the next 6 months. Everything you saw today is live or arriving before the end of this year. DentalOS is the foundation, and it's available today. And current clients will begin transitioning over the next several months. The rest of the scheduling and reception AI agent group, rescheduling, treatment scheduling, and quick fill is coming in the next few months as well. Now, clinical voice is already live in DentalOS, and the RCM Hub arrives later this year. That's the complete enterprise operating model. Foundation, workforce, clinical, financial, all of it in 2026. And here's what I want you to understand about moving now versus moving later. Every month, a dental enterprise runs on DentalOS. The data layer gets richer, the AI gets smarter, and the operating intelligence, it compounds. That's not a feature, it's an asset, and it builds from the day you start. A group that builds this foundation in 2026 will have an intelligence advantage that a group starting in 2030 can't close. Not because we will stop them from buying the same software, but because 2 years of connected operational data cannot be manufactured retroactively. You see, the window is open now.
When I think about what you just saw, I don't think about features. I don't think about release dates. I think about what it means to run a dental enterprise in this era. The complexity, the ambition, the pressure to go faster than the infrastructure was designed to carry. And I think about the operators I talk to every week who are doing it anyway with whatever they have. Building something extraordinary on a foundation that was never built for it. They deserve better infrastructure, and that is why we built this. Not to compete with another dental software company, to give the operators building the future of dental enterprises the foundation they have always deserved. DentalOS is not a platform you buy. It is the structural advantage you run on. The foundation that makes every AI investment work harder, every acquisition integrate faster, every location perform more consistently. Every data point compound into something your competitors are still trying to build. The era of dental enterprise is here. We built a platform it runs on. The window is open. Come build it with us. This is the new standard.